So since we are supposed to start with the colligative property in the last class, and because of the audio problems, we couldn't do much. So colligative property, what is the colligative? We have a set of properties of solution, and that arises due to shift in the fundamental properties of the solvent in presence of any non-volatile substance like a solute we talk about. And all throughout I have put the solute as in red, and usually the solvent, which is the fundamental property of which we are going to study, is in always marked in blue. I tried to maintain that all throughout the text. But what are the major colligative property? This colligative property you have studied from class 11, 12. The colligative property as such is not new, but what we are going to be dealing with is how we relate the thermodynamics, whatever we have developed so far, to the colligative property is what we are going to see. I'm going to go through very fast because I'm going to start the reaction equilibrium in few minutes. So the colligative property is a property of the solution or the solvent, which we are talking about, the properties of the solvent which undergoes a change. And what are the things which is included? If you remember from your school days, it is one major one is the lowering of the vapor pressure, and we have this lowering of freezing point, elevation of boiling point of a mixture when a solute, a non-volatile solute, is added to it. In addition, another fundamental property of the solvent which is supposed to be looked into, which gives rise to something very important, that is the osmotic pressure. And these shifts in the fundamental properties arises because of the entropy of the mixing of the liquids, and that the two solutes, solvent and the solute we have, okay, which is absent in the pure solvent phase and only arises when you are adding the solute. So what we are looking into, we are looking into the shift in the fundamental property of the solvent when you are adding a non-volatile solute to it. And there are certain things which we assume, which is supposed to be assumed, that the solute which we are adding is non-volatile and the solute does not dissolve in the solvent condition when it's in the freezing point. Like if you freeze the solvent, then you get a solid, and this solid is supposed to be also a solution. We call it a solid solution. That means the solute does not also dissolve in the freezing point. That means it is not in the solvent also, it is not going to dissolve. And the extent of depends is only on the mole fraction of the solute which we have added. It does not really depend on the identity of the compound which you have added. It is only the mole fraction of the solute which is added, and the precaution which we have taken, that it is has to precaution or assumption, we say, the assumption we take is the solute is non-volatile and the amount added is very small compared to the solvent which we have in the system. Okay. So the common feature of the colligative property is the reduction of the chemical potential of the solvent in presence of the solute. We have said that whatever we are monitoring, the set of colligative property arises because of the fundamental change in the property of the solvent when a solute is added. So what we are looking into, the basic fundamental thing which we look into when we talk about colligative property from a say chemistry background person, will be looking into the chemical potential of the solvent. So chemical potential of the solvent, as you know, it is solvent means if I talk about a solution, it is going to be a mixture of the two, the solute and the solvent. So what I have the chemical potential of the mixture, which is supposed to be obtained. Mixture means the solution which is obtained by mixing the solvent and the solute. So what if you remember, we had written the chemical potential of the mixture at a given temperature and pressure when it is a liquid state. Obviously we are talking about the solution, is going to be the chemical potential of the solvent in the pure state at the same temperature and pressure, plus the mole fraction of the solute which we have, a solvent which we have added in the solution mixture. So the mole fraction of the solvent into ln of the mole fraction of the solvent RT plus the chemical potential of the pure solvent is going to give you the chemical potential of that species. So remember, we always define the chemical potential of a species. That species is what we are looking monitoring the chemical potential of. This chemical potential of this species is going to be equal to the chemical potential of that species when it is in the pure form, plus the RT-ln mole fraction of that species in the solution. So this comes from the mole fraction of the species in the solution, and this is the pure solvent. And as we all know, the ln of this is going to be less than 0. So we always say that the chemical potential of a species in a mixture will be always less than the chemical potential of that species in the pure state. So this is the driving thing which we have. So there is no difference of the solute on the chemical potential of the solvent vapor, because it is a non-volatile solute which we have taken. So the vapor will not be getting affected, but the solvent solute, the solvent solid, the solute does not dissolve in the solvent free frozen condition also. So the influence which we are looking into is only in the solution form. So we are not looking into the influence of the solute which we may have on the vapor form or in the solid solution when it is frozen. Now, the chemical potential change of the solvent is due to the interaction of the solute with the solvent particles. It is not because of that, because while we are talking about mixing, we are talking about the interaction. We have seen the deviation in the non-ideality coming into the solution is coming from the interaction of the A and B species which we are mixing. Here we are saying the chemical potential change of the solvent does not depend on the interaction of the A and the B molecule, but it is the effect is purely entropic, and which is quite different from what you have in the non-ideality in the solution. So for a pure solute, for a pure solvent, vapor pressure reflects the disorder, and this vapor pressure involves molecules moving from more organized liquid phase into the more random liquid phase. Is what we are saying, that the molecular interpretation means we are talking about how the entropy effect is going to be looked into. What we are looking here, when we have a pure solvent, the vapor pressure is the reflection of the disorder, and when there's evaporation involved, what is happening? Uh, a liquid phase is much more organized, so we are moving from, during evaporation, we are moving from a more organized liquid phase to a more random gaseous phase. So this is one of the reasons which we have for the look into the solvent. Now introducing this solute increases this disorderness of the liquid phase. So here previously we had the liquid in a more organized state. When we are introducing the solute into the system, then you are increasing the disorderness in the liquid phase. So this increases the entropy. So now the tendency of the vapor to form the vapor is going to be much lower than which used to be there in the pure solvent form. Pure solvent form, we do not have any solute, so the more organized to less organized movement is like from the entropy is increasing is in the direction when we are going from the liquid to the solid to the gaseous phase. This is what we have seen for the pure solvent. But when we are saying that it is the colligative property, the chemical potential difference of a species in a solution does not arise because of AB interaction, the interaction between the solute and solvent molecules, but because of the entropy effect. So to understand the entropy effect, we compare the solvent and the solution, and in the solution what you have the solute which is dissolved, which is going to impart more disorderedness in the liquid phase. And now if we compare, when you're having an evaporation process, what happens? The liquid is going from, compared to the solvent, pure solvent phase, it is going from a more disordered phase to a further disordered phase, but the change is going to be not as comparable as to the pure solvent, if you may understand that, because it is a tendency for it to go from the go to the vapor phase will be not as high as it was in the pure state, because pure state was the liquid was much more organized in the solvent phase, but in the solution phase, if in a mixture, the due to this presence of the solute, you have a disorganized arrangement in the liquid phase itself. So now the tendency to form the vapor is lowered. So this is the reason for having a lower vapor pressure or boiling point increase. All the properties which we have seen is because of that. So it's a purely entropy effect. Assumption which we have taken, it's a very dilute solution, and the number of moles of the solvent is much more than the number of moles of the solute. And the condition which is arising because of all the properties which is arising is because of the fact that chemical potential of the species A, which is, if I talk about a solvent molecule, is going to be much higher for a pure state than compared to the chemical potential of that species in a mixture. So these are the things which we need to know. I'm going to move into the lowering of vapor pressure, which is nothing but the Raoult's law. What we consider a solvent A, which is I have marked in blue, and I have a solute which is non-volatile, and the amount of solute is very small, but it is non-volatile. If it is non-volatile, means that is not going to contribute to the vapor phase. Okay. Now, if I want to recall the vapor Raoult's law, what does Raoult's law say? If I have a mixture, if I have a mixture of a solute and a solvent, then the partial pressure of a species, the partial pressure of the species in the solution is going to be equal to the mole fraction of the species into the vapor pressure of that species in the pure state. So this is according to the Raoult's law. Now, since I have only two components, then the total of mole fraction of A plus mole fraction of B should be equal to 1. So instead of writing in terms of mole fraction of A, I can write 1 minus mole fraction of B, right? So if I write down this, and if I want to see if there is a change in the vapor pressure of previously a liquid which was pure, that is solvent, and when it is we are adding a solute, small amount of solute B. So if I want to find out how much, whether there is a lowering or not, how do I see? I say that lowering can be this is the vapor pressure of partial pressure of the species when in the solution, minus in the pure state, minus the vapor partial pressure of the species in the solution. So this is the difference we are going to monitor, and if this is going to be positive, then what do we say? This is greater than this one. If this species in this difference is positive, then I say this is greater than this one. That means the partial pressure or the vapor pressure of A in the pure state is greater than the partial pressure of A in the solution. So if it is not, then we can say there is no lowering. So if I say, if I take this as the partial pressure of the vapor pressure of the pure solvent minus the partial pressure of A in the solution, and I write down this again, I substitute this in terms of the Raoult's law, and this Raoult's law is what I can apply, and then rewrite the mole fraction of A in terms of 1 minus taking this as common, I have 1 minus XA into mole fraction of the partial pressure or vapor pressure of A in the pure state. And if you remember, this will be nothing but the mole fraction of the solvent. So mole fraction of the solvent into the vapor pressure of A in the pure state is what we get. And this is going to be a positive term. That means this difference is positive, which means that you have a vapor pressure lowering in the mixture, because this stands for the mixture and this for the pure solvent. Is it clear? This is the vapor pressure lowering, and this is according to the Raoult's law. What was different is what we are looking into the boiling point change. We are talking about the elevation of boiling point, what we are looking into in terms of the thermodynamics of it. The criteria is to monitor the chemical potential of a species, and that species is the solvent species. So we have a solute which is very small in amount, which is marked in B, and we have a solvent which is volatile and the solute is non-volatile. Now we are carrying out the heating of the mixture to boiling point. What is going to happen? The chemical potential in the liquid state should be equal to the chemical potential of the of species in the gaseous state. If this equilibrium is reached, then we say the system is in, if this equality is reached, then we say the system is in equilibrium. Now, if I have to put, this is the starting equation which we have. This is the equation we are putting because we are vaporizing putting the liquid, whatever mixture we are taking, we are boiling that, and we are monitoring the boiling point. So this is the purpose we take the condition where you are heating the mixture to the boiling point. So the chemical potential of the species in the liquid state should be equal to the chemical potential of the species in the gaseous phase when equilibrium is reached. Now I put in the substitute the value of the chemical potential of the species, which is a chemical potential A means for the solution. What for the solution? What can I write? The chemical potential of the component A in the pure solvent plus RT-ln mole fraction of the solvent in the mixture. So this is what we can rewrite, and this is going to be the chemical potential of the gaseous phase. In the pure state, this we can write as star because there is no going to be no contribution from the solute. There's a the vapor phase will be always purely the solvent. We do not have the solute. That is the assumption we have made, that the solute is not going to be volatile at all. So this we have written as non-star, but this will be equal to star. Just to make this equal, we had kept with unstar. So what we can see, we can take down from here, take ln x outside and see what you get. You get it is the difference between the chemical potential in the gaseous state, you can put it in the star form, minus the chemical potential of A in the liquid state. This is the pure state, that means the solvent. Now, if I have, this is also pure, this is also pure, we have a difference between the gaseous phase, the chemical potential of the gaseous phase minus the liquid phase. What is that going to be equal to? It is going to be change in the Gibbs molar energy, right? This is going to be the difference between the two chemical potential is going to be Gibbs molar energy, because we this is going to be, this is defined as per mole, this is also defined as per mole. This difference is nothing but delta G per mole, and this is since it's a condition where you have a gas phase which is the final state and initially it was a liquid state. So I can write down this is going to be equal to the delta G vaporization per mole, and RT comes from the equation. Now, if we are applying this ln of the mole fraction of the A, what we can write 1 minus k xb, because only two components are present, xa plus xb must be equal to 1. So I can write down xa in terms of 1 minus xb. And since xb is very, very small, that is the assumption which we have taken, since b is very, very small, then ln of something very small, if you can do a Taylor expansion, what you get is ln xa will be equal to minus xb. That is from the Taylor expansion when this x term is very small. Okay, ln of 1 minus x when x is very, very small can be rewritten as minus the molality of the solute into the molar mass of the solvent. This is from the manipulation I have done by multiplying the mass of total mass of the solvent in the numerator and denominator. So now I combine these 1 and 2, one from the chemical potential difference and the other is from the Taylor expansion, and then manipulating by multiplying by the total mass of the solvent. Then what do I get? I get an expression like this. I get an expression like this. Now you see, I have got the molality in terms of the gives free vaporization and molar vaporization value, the molar mass RT. But I do not, I want the change in the temperature. So how do I find the change in the temperature? So for introducing the change in the temperature, what I do, I take this equation which I have equated the molality of the solute to, and differentiate with respect to temperature. What do I get? I differentiate with respect to temperature all throughout. If I differentiate this side, I get differentiate the change in the molality of the solute with respect to temperature at a constant pressure. This side I can take R and M as separate and differentiate the delta Chi vaporization by T with respect to T. And if you remember the Gibbs-Helmholtz energy, the change in the delta G per T with temperature at constant pressure is nothing but minus delta H by T square. Now, since we are dealing with the molar Gibbs free energy, so instead of H, I will get molar H, delta H. So I write down in terms of the molar delta H from the Gibbs-Helmholtz equation. And what do I get? I get a term in terms of delta H, with it is a negative term. So this negative term is going to be vanishing now. So I have molar delta H value of vaporization divided by RT, Ma, which is the mole mass of the solvent, into T square. Now, if this expression, if you are having, how do I now find out the delta T? Now, what is delta M? What is molar thing which we are talking of, the molality of the solute? That is the change in the molality of the solvent after mixing minus the molality of the solute which was initially present. Okay. Before mixing, what was the molality, and the after mixing, whatever the molality of the solute is, what we are associating that delta molality change of the solute as. Now, if you look at this, what is that? It is a molality of the solution which was supposed to be when the some solute was added, that we had called as MB. And what was the molality of the B before mixing? Obviously, it was a pure solvent, so there was no solute present. So I can write out MB minus M equal to M. That means what I say is the delta M is nothing but the MB of the solution. I hope you have got it. You have got what I'm trying to convey. This delta M is nothing but M because the initial amount of M was 0. So I can put that delta MB as equal to MB and simplify that in terms of the delta temperature change. So delta temperature change is what since we are monitoring the boiling point temperature, what we are going to say, we are going to see the temperature of the change in the solvent minus that of the boiling point of the pure solvent. This is the delta T which we are monitoring. So this delta T is nothing but, if you can take this expression out, this we call as Kb. So this Kb is what we are usually evaluate when you are doing a numerical, for which here I have missed out the delta, the molar part. Please make sure that you correct this. This is the molar. I have already sent you the PPT, so I cannot change it. Please remember, this is the molar enthalpy change of vaporization which we are looking into. In the numerator, we have the molar mass of the solvent. Then we have the R, and we have the boiling point of the pure solvent. Okay. This is entirely at a given temperature, is a constant. So this can be given to you, and you have to find out the change in temperature or boiling point temperature. So if you have this, you can see that the boiling point temperature which I have taken after mixing to the boiling point temperature before mixing, which was a solvent, this difference is going to be a finite value, and hence it is going to be a positive value. So we have a change in temperature which we can monitor, which you already know, and nothing is new here. What you do when you are doing the freezing point condition. Freezing point condition, the condition of assumption remains the same. Like here we had taken, I had said that I can write down this as star, this as star, because the solvent does not contribute to the vapor phase. Similarly, when we are talking about the freezing point, when we are talking about the freezing point, the same conditions apply. A solute is taken B and a solvent A which is volatile. And the additional thing which we have to remember as in the assumption is the solute does not dissolve in the solid solution at the freezing point. So that is the condition you have to remember when you are dealing with the freezing point. In addition, what will be the chemical potential change which we'll be looking into? We are heating the mixture for boiling condition, and what will happen when we are doing a freezing point evaluation? We'll be taking a equilibrium when we are cooling the solution to the freezing point. So what is going to be the equation here which we are going to equate? That will be the chemical potential of the liquid, which is supposed to be the one which you are dealing with, that is the mixture, that will be equal to the chemical potential of the species when in the solid state. I can write the star here because we have already done the assumption that the solute does not freeze along or dissolve along with the solid solution because of the assumptions which we have made. So this can be also taken as a star. So we rewrite this in terms of the chemical potential of the solution being the chemical potential of the pure solution of that species in pure solution plus RT ln, the ln mole fraction of the pure fraction or the mole solvent in the solution, and that is equated to the chemical potential in the solid state at given temperature and pressure. Now here also we have taken the same thing. Here we have taken the change from the final state is the gaseous state minus the liquid state. Remember, this is also a star. I have not written, most books do not write star, but you have to remember this is star because of the assumption we have made. The vapor phase will have no solute in it. So this is basically a star, but we have not written it. And usually books do not write it. Similarly here, whatever we are going to take here, since we have assumed that the solute will not be part of the solid solution which we have generated due to freezing because they don't dissolve. So this will be also the a star because it is going to be considered a pure freezing of the solvent. So only difference is now you have to find out the mole fraction of the A component that's in the solvent in the solution. What you do is the difference, its final state is this one. So difference between the chemical potential of the species in the solid ice form or frozen form, that is solid at given temperature pressure, minus the chemical potential of the species in the pure liquid form at the given temperature and pressure. Now you see this is what? This is going to be minus delta G fusion. So this is the difference which you are going to have compared to the previous one where you had delta H molar delta H vaporization. Here you have minus delta G fusion. So this is the difference which we come into, and again we put in the condition where you have a Taylor expansion where I can equate that. I do the same manipulation of multiplying by the total mass of the solvent in the numerator and denominator. So finally, what do I get? I get the mole fraction of the solvent, is equal to approximately equal to the the molality of the solute into the molar mass of the solvent. This is the expression which we have. And now we equate that this is a minus sign and this is also a minus sign. So the minus sign is going to be cancelling off. So this minus sign and this minus sign is going to cancel off. So you have the molality of the solute is nothing but the molar G of the fusion by RT mole fraction or molar mass of the solvent. Now again we apply the Gibbs-Helmholtz condition, And according to Gibbs-Helmholtz condition, the delta G by T with respect to temperature at constant pressure should be equal to minus delta H by T square. So here, since we are dealing with molar, so I get the molar heat of vaporization. So if you write this, what do you get? You get a minus sign here, and this minus sign, if we are looking into the conditions of molality, again I have said the before mixing and after mixing the molality does not change. So the change in molality becomes equal to the molality of the solute which you have taken. Now applying this, what we are finding out? We are finding out the temperature change, and temperature changing in what? The frozen mixture minus the one which is the temperature of the solution, which is the freezing point of the solution, minus the freezing point of the pure solvent. If I take the difference, that will give me the change in the temperature associated. And since it's already got a negative sign, so it will be always a lowering condition which we have to look into while we are doing the calculation. So these expressions, I'm sure they are not new to you. So you just need to understand what thermodynamics I have applied, and entire thing is because the properties of the fundamental thermodynamic properties of the solvent undergo changes. So what we have monitored is the chemical potential of the species which is a solvent when in condition with the mixture. Now the fourth one is the osmotic pressure, and this arises because of the flow of solvent into the solution and can be say be separated by a semi-permeable membrane. So we actually going to be monitoring the pressure difference in the two phases, where you have the solvent, pure solvent, and the one where you have the mixed solvent. That means not mixed solvent, you have the solution, the solvent plus the solute. So it is going to be something looking something like this. I'm going to look into the same condition of temperature and pressure. So I have to monitor when I'm talking about under atmospheric pressure, the atmospheric pressure being the P external, and that will be, this is the level of the liquid which I have, and this liquid which is outside light color is the solvent. And what we have here, we have a membrane, and into this membrane is selectively permeable to the molecules of the solvent. So the solvent is going to go inside this, and you have a solute. So you have a mixed phase here, and you see what happens, that you have two pressure conditions generated. One is this pressure, one is the pressure at alpha state. This is if I can call this as a alpha phase, and I can call this as a beta phase. Beta phase is the pure liquid, that means the pure solvent, and this alpha phase is the mixture of the solvent and the solute. So if I look into the pressure conditions where through which the flow of the solvent is taking place, I have two pressure conditions. One is in the beta range. So now what we are looking at equilibrium, what should happen? At equilibrium, they should not be, this should not keep on rising. At equilibrium, what we need to know is the chemical potential of the species which is of A in this region should be the chemical potential of that species in the pure solvent region. This is the two region we are looking into. This is the mixed phase, and this is the pure phase. So what I am looking is at the condition where the equilibrium is going to be established is at a point, say alpha, which is in the same point, beta in the same level, same height we have maintained. What we are looking into is the chemical potential in this will be equal to the chemical potential of the species in this side. And what is that going to be? This is going to be associated with the pressure, which is P plus pi, and this pi is the one which is generated because of the, here we have already defined P plus pi is the one which is additional HdG or H rho g, which is incorporated. So if I can rewrite the chemical potential of the pure liquid for the solution, then what I can write, the chemical potential of the here we can write the chemical potential of the pure species plus RT ln of the mole fraction of the solvent or the pure solvent. So if I can write that and equate that to 0 using Raoult's law, then I can take this to this side and I've expanded this. What do I get? I get an equation like this. All of you with me? I'm going a bit fast. Now, okay, if you see it yourself, then you can understand, because we are looking at the pressure at 2 points. That's all we are doing. Now we define the condition for delta G. Mu is delta G per mole. Okay, so what is the condition of delta G at constant temperature? If you remember your say the fundamental equation, according to the fundamental equation, if the temperature is held constant, then the change in G is nothing but the volume into the change in pressure, because temperature minus S dt is going to be cancelling off, because temperature is going to be 0, change in delta T will be equal to 0. So you have the change in Gibbs free energy being equal to the volume into the change in pressure. If you remember, we have taken per mole. If I take per mole, then this becomes the chemical potential of the species A, and this becomes the molar volume of A. Okay, so the molar volume of the pure state is what we can represent into dP. Now integrating which one? Integrating the one equation which you have in the beginning. This is the equation which you have. I take integrating this part. What do I get? I can rewrite. This will be the difference in delta mu. This is going to be coming from that. If I take from this equation, this difference is going to be equal to V star partial volume of the solvent, the pure solvent, into dP. And what is the change in pressure which we are looking into, from pressure P to P plus pi, because pi is coming from this height. Okay. Now, if I say that the liquid does not, the volume does not change because liquid is incompressible, then I can take this outside, and this will be what? P minus P plus pi minus P. That will cancel off, P will cancel off, only pi will be left. So I have the partial molar quantity of the species A in the pure state into pi. And what is that? This is the difference is going to be equated to. This is nothing, what we have just now evaluated is this part. This part is nothing but this equal to this one, right? Now I can equate that to the RTLN mole fraction of A. This is what we can do from this previous equation. We have taken this. Now I substitute this in place of this as this one. So RTLN mole fraction of A plus the molar volume of A in the pure state into pi equal to 0. Now again using the same ln A being equal to minus number of moles of solute by the number of moles of the solvent, which we have just now done. What we have done, the approximation of NB being very small, so it is neglected. So, and we have applied the Taylor series expansion, and from the Taylor series expansion of 1 minus XB, we got that NB by NA with a negative sign. Okay. Now substitute this in this expression. Substitute this in this expression. What do you get? And what is, now rewrite what is molar volume. Molar volume is the volume of A divided by the number of moles of A. If you rewrite this, what do you get? What do you get? One assumption we have taken, that the the total volume can be taken as the VA, the volume of the solvent, because the volume of solute is very small. So I can replace the VA by the total volume. Okay, if I can replace the VA by the total volume, then what I can write, this becomes capital V into pi, and that is the total volume of the solution. And what does this part become? What does this part become? RT into NB. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And this is the Van 't Hoff equation which we have. This is the Van 't Hoff equation which is relates the osmotic pressure pi with that of the mole fraction of the solute. This is a very important equation. Van 't Hoff equation we also do in chemical equilibrium. So Van 't Hoff equation is similar to the PV equal to nRT, if you can compare that. Now I replace the total number of solute by the total volume. That is going to be what the concentration unit is going to be. Total number of solute by the total volume give you the concentration of the solution. So I can rewrite in terms of the osmotic pressure being equal to RT into the concentration. Okay, this is the standard equation which you already know. So in the conclusion, what is written, the osmotic pressure is the spontaneous passage of pure solvent through a semi-permeable membrane into the solution. What is the fallout of this? This membrane is selectively permeable to only the solvent and does not allow the solute particles to pass through it. Osmotic pressure pi is the pressure that must be applied to stop the influx of the solvent into the semi-permeable area which we have taken as a bag. What is it important? It is important in medicine because it's the just what that is what is being done when we are doing a dialysis. What is done in dialysis is something very similar to it. You take out the what do you take out in dialysis? Can anybody expand on what how this can be
Impurities
applied to
from
the
the blood.
huh?
Impurities from the blood.
How will you do it?
Ma'am, using this the osmotic flow, na,
Hmm.
like like the blood has more solute than the distilled water outside used in the dialysis. So
Hmm.
solute particles will flow from
So
the
you
body.
will, whenever you have a dialysis patient, you will have a bag along with them.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you seen? They will be having a bag, and that bag is connected to your kidney or whatever it is. So what you are doing a osmosis of where you have this the solute particles being selectively the solvent particles being selectively pushed in, right? Then how the solute particle comes out? See, detoxing is what is done in dialysis, right? You take out the body is unable to give out the solute particles, and the concentration gets very high. So what you do, you reduce the concentration by putting in the solvent. Okay, but if it is solvent, then the solvent is going to be pure. Just have think about it and give me a logic. Solvent is the pure and the chemical potential is always a downhill process, right? So the solvent is going to go from the pure solvent to the mixture, from high to low. Okay, think about it and tell me
Yes, ma'am.
what should happen. So what you are doing when you are doing a dialysis, what you are can you really take out the solute particle? Can you really talk?
We increase the solvent.
Yes. So that is what I was saying, that if there is always a bag associated with the person. What you are trying to take is we are trying to push in the solvent. We are trying to dilute the content which is there, which is supposed to be very concentrated, and it becomes so concentrated, it becomes toxic. So what you do, you pass in some solvent, the blood, the body fluid or the blood which we are using, which is supposed to be pure, and through osmosis, the pure is going to go into the impure. Okay, because the flow is always from higher potential to lower potential. It's a downhill process. So you have to have a pure system which is supposed to be attached, and if you are attaching through a semi-permeable membrane, then what will happen? Then the whatever solvent you are taking, it is blood which is going to go into it, and then the concentration of the solute in the kidney is going to be reduced. So what you do in dialysis is actually passing the solvent, which is the blood, into the organ, where the concentration of the solute then reduces. If you increase the solvent, the amount of concentration is supposed to be reduced. So that is how it is maintained. It is not that we cannot take out the solute from the blood. Taking out solute is not possible. What you do is increase the solvent concentration, which is the blood inside the organ. Understood?
Ma'am, then why do we use semi-permeable membranes in the bag while we are
We don't
doing
want other
dialysis?
fluids we do not want other fluids to pass in.
So basically, like from the first needle, we take out the blood, and in the bag, we use it to purify or to reduce the concentration and then flow back it to the body, something like that.
Flow back, I did not get the second part.
Initially, we take out the blood from the body slowly and then put it in the bag or to the semi-permeable membrane to make it dilute or less toxic or less concentrated, and then flow that pure blood or that like purified blood back to the body from the second needle, or there is something else happening in that process.
No, I exactly how the operation is done. The entire operation is done. I really do not know how they manage it, but the steps they take to do it. But this much is known, that if you have a semi-permeable membrane through which you can selectively pass the blood so that it gets diluted.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, we should know this. I'm going to find out, because you never know when you require it. Okay, so right now I'm going to start the chemical equilibrium. I don't know how much time we are going to be left with, but I'm assuming that you. Okay, now what we are looking into is the reaction equilibrium. And the reaction equilibrium, when we talk about say a liquid A going into a product B, which say is gas, what I'm looking into is the total change in G. What is the total change in G? If you look at the diagram, this we have seen for the delta G mixing. I have G in the y-axis and composition in the x-axis. So with the composition, I have a change in G. This G is actually the addition of the pure A and B plus the delta G mixing. And if you remember the expression of delta G mixing, it is nRT, mole fraction of A. If I have only two components, which is A and B in the reaction, the mole fraction of A, ln, mole fraction into plus mole fraction of B, ln, mole fraction of B. So this is the expression I have for the delta G mix. And what I have for the G for the pure system, if you remember, G is nothing but number of moles into the chemical potential. So a number of moles in this is Na, but if I want to make the expression uniform, then I can write down what is Na. If you have it write down in terms of mole fraction of A is Na divided by total number of moles. So Na can be written as mole fraction of A into N. So I have written that in to make the expression uniform. What I am trying to say, that when we have a change in composition, I have a change in the delta G pure, and I have a change in the delta G mix. The delta G pure is going to be increasing from A to B, and for delta G mix is supposed to be reducing. And what we are looking at when we are reaching a equilibrium, when we want to find out determine the composition at equilibrium, is the position where the total G is minimized. And the rate of change of this, which is going to be a decrease and this is going to be an increase, match. At that point, we get the equilibrium composition. So this is what I have written. You see, this is going to be an increasing slope and this is going to be a decreasing slope. And where do I get the equilibrium composition? I get the equilibrium composition in this. This is the total G. At this point, if you have a look at this, this is the total G. Total G with the composition should be equal to 0, and that can become equal to 0 when this two become equal. And this is going to be have a positive slope and this is going to be having a negative slope. So if you can write down in terms of, if you can understand what is happening is the delta G of total with respect to the progress of the, this is the progress, Z is the progress of the reaction from the gaseous state to liquid state to the gaseous state, and at given temperature and pressure, what is going to be the change in G with respect to the extent of reaction. And this is nothing but the summation of the change in G with the with reaction for the pure plus the change in the delta G mixing. Okay, and when we say the equilibrium is reached, this is going to become equal to 0. That time the delta G change in the slope of the delta G pure with respect to the composition at the given temperature and pressure will be equal to the delta G mixing with respect to progress, and that if you take the equality sign, it should be a minus sign. So this equilibrium position comes when the total delta G of the system is minimized, and at the position, at the point when the rate of change or rate of decrease of the delta G mixing with progress of reaction matches with the rate at which the delta G of the pure increases. This is supposed to be defined as the equilibrium composition. Now, if I have to derive that, the main thing which we need to know is what is the reaction Gibbs and the reaction equilibrium, and what is the standard reaction equilibrium. That is all we need to understand from this. Others, you know, everything what we are going to do is known to you. So what we are looking, suppose dx amount of A turns to B at a given temperature and pressure. How do I write down that in terms of the delta G? Delta G we know from the fundamental equations. Delta G at a given temperature and pressure for a particular system is the chemical potential into total number of change of the moles of the A, and chemical potential of B into total number of change of moles of B. Now, what is the change in A and B? What is the number of moles change of A and B? I say let dx amount of the A is converted to B. So if I know that if it is initially Na, it is gone to some extent, depending on what stoichiometry it is, A is going to be decreased by dx and B is going to be increased by dx. Okay, initially NB was supposed to be, say, some amount, and after some time the progress of dx, it is supposed to increase by dx, and the A is supposed to decrease by dx, right? So if I write down this, I can write down in terms of the number of progress of reaction. I can write down in terms of x, or I can write down in terms of z. So the chemical potential of A will decrease by dx amount, and chemical potential of B will increase by dx amount. Okay. Now, if I want to find out what is the delta G reaction for that particular reaction which we are dealing with from A to B. What is it? It is the slope between the G versus composition curve. This side is the progress of reaction, Z or X. Okay, this side represents the progress of reaction. I want to find out the condition or composition at equilibrium. What will be the composition of A and B at the equilibrium? How do I find out? I am going to look into the slope, how the G is changing with the progress of reaction for a given temperature and pressure. So from here, from this expression, I can get what will be the change in G with respect to X. It will be nothing but mu B minus mu A. And what will that be equal to? That will be giving us the delta G reaction, standard delta G reaction, which is going to be nothing but the chemical potential of B minus A. If I had number of systems A, B, C, D, suppose A plus B plus C equal to giving me C plus D plus something F, then what would I write here? What would I have written here? See, I can associate this with the stoichiometric coefficient. Here, stoichiometric coefficient of A is 1 and the stoichiometric coefficient of B is 1. When I'm writing here, what I have taken the stoichiometric coefficient of A as minus 1 and B as plus 1. Right? That is how you write delta G, product minus the reactant. Right. So if I have a number of systems here, I can say it is summed over delta G reaction, standard delta G reaction is nothing but summation of all the chemical potentials of the species multiplied by the stoichiometric coefficient. Or in other words, I can write something like this. I can write delta G reaction is nothing but the stoichiometric coefficient into the chemical potential. The stoichiometric coefficients of all the reactants I will take as minus and all the products I will take as positive, and these are the coefficients otherwise which we can add. So what I can write here, the mu for A is minus 2, mu for B is minus 3, and for C and C it is plus 1, and for D it is plus 2. Understood? So if I can write this as summation of the chemical potential of the species which is there in the reaction into the stoichiometric coefficient summed over all the species present. Now, if I look into this, how can this will give us the composition, and what condition will I get the composition, or which side will it be proceeding? I have got the delta G reaction as defined as when I have two components with stoichiometric coefficients 1, I can write mu B minus mu A. Right? Now, in this reaction, if say B is greater than A, chemical potential of B is greater than A, what it becomes? B is greater than A, what it becomes? Delta G becomes negative. The delta G reaction becomes negative. That means it's a condition where we have the reaction proceeding from A to B. Suppose I have the B is greater than A, then I get a positive thing. Delta G becomes positive, but delta G cannot be positive. What we say is the reaction from B to A is more favored. What happens at equilibrium? The chemical potential when you have two components, two species, the chemical potential of A becomes equal to the chemical potential of B. Okay. So what we can write down? We can write down the chemical potential of A in terms of what we know, the chemical potential of its standard state plus RT, the equilibrium pressure of A, partial pressure of A, equal to chemical potential of B, RT ln partial pressure of B at equilibrium. P naught is always going to be there. Remember, you have to always keep in mind that P naught is always there. We may not write, but it is always going to be there. Now I can find out what is going to be the take out the equilibrium conditions in one side, RTLN equilibrium partial pressure of A by equilibrium partial pressure by B equal to, what will that be? That will be the difference between the chemical potential of B in the standard state minus the chemical potential of the A and the standard state. And this difference is known as the reaction gives free energy in the standard state. This is what we find out. Okay. So what is the reaction gives energy is the difference between the chemical potential of the product and the reactant and the composition of the reaction mixture. So if you can put in here, two conditions we have discussed. One, how we have defined the reaction equilibrium, reaction delta G naught. Reaction delta G naught is given as the sum of the stoichiometric coefficient into the chemical potential of each of the species summed over all the species present in the system. This is how we define the reaction equilibrium. And what is the condition for equilibrium? The condition for equilibrium is the stoichiometric coefficient into the chemical potential of each of the species summed over all the species should be equal to 0. So I can put that, if I know what is going to be my expression for mu, I can write down this, because this is the expression for mu. Remember, P naught is always there. The expression for mu I is going to be mu equal to mu naught at that particular temperature plus RT ln Pi at equilibrium. So I can rewrite this. That should be equal to 0. Now what happens? If you look into this, what you are getting? This is equal to 0. But what we have got from before? From this, what we have got? The standard the standard value of the chemical potential of the B minus A is the reaction gives reaction chemical reaction equilibrium at standard state. So we can write down that, and that will be equal to this one. This will come from the reaction, okay? Product minus the reactant, okay? So this will be coming from the, this will give you the delta G reaction for the standard state, and this will, if you keep and you sum over all the species of ln, then you have pi partial pressure of ith species by P naught raised to the power the stoichiometric coefficient of each of the species at equilibrium. This you know, right? So what I have now defined as the expression is delta G reaction of the mixture of the reaction in is equal to RT ln K, where K is defined as the partial pressure of each of the species by P naught raised to their respective stoichiometric coefficient at the equilibrium concentration. Okay, this I will come to a little later. So this is what I am going to look into. What I am saying, the delta G reaction is going to be always greater than 0 if the reaction will be the way we have written the reaction is going to be the direction in which the reaction is going to proceed. If it is positive, then we say the reverse reaction is going to be positive. Okay, the reaction will proceed in the reverse direction. And delta G reaction can be written in terms of the chemical potentials of each of the components. I can write down delta G reaction in terms of each of the species. How do I write down for this reaction? It will be C, all the coefficients I write down as positive into chemical potential, into negative will be the one which is reactant. So these are going to be negative sign. So you sum it over, that will give you the delta G naught for that reaction. The chemical reaction for any equilibrium process, the reaction equilibrium is standard reaction equilibrium is not equal to 0. That we evaluate by multiplying each of the stoichiometric coefficient with each of the chemical potential summed over all the systems which is present. Only thing which we have to remember, that the stoichiometric coefficients of all the products are going to be taken as negative, positive, and all the reactants we write down as negative. But it is just the sum of them. So if you can rewrite, this is the same thing which I have written in the criteria for the spontaneity or reaction to be forward at a given temperature and pressure. We have delta G will be negative or equal to 0, or we can say delta G, which is mu into change in number of moles of the species summed over all the species at a given temperature and pressure should be equal or less than 0. And if you put in the criteria for a particular reaction, for this particular reaction, if you write down into dN, and now you see, if you write down this is nothing but the summation of mu into the stoichiometric coefficient for each of the species. So this part is nothing but the delta G reaction. Okay. So the delta G reaction into the number of moles should be greater than equal to 0, and that is what is the delta G for a given temperature and pressure. I hope I'm making you are able to understand what I'm writing. Suppose it is not given, the chemical potential is not given in the standard state. What do? We write down the chemical potential in terms of the activities. Suppose I want to write down in terms of the standard states are not there, I can write down the chemical potential of the ith species into chemical potential of the ith in the standard state, RT-ln. Instead of the pressure which we had taken, we have to now take activity. And again, we can rewrite the whole thing as the same. We can rewrite the whole thing in the same. This becomes equals to 0 at equilibrium. So this becomes equal to minus. And this will become the Q, and Q will be equal to K or less than equal to K, depending on what type of reaction which we are going to get. So this is the reaction quotient, and reaction quotient and equilibrium constant. I hope you remember what is the condition which you have. So we have here, you remember, this is the reaction which we are writing down. This is becoming equal to 0. So the standard reaction equilibrium equal to minus RT ln Q is what we are looking into. When we say that all the activities are at their equilibrium state, then this Q becomes equal to K. Okay. It's the same thing which I have written again. If you want to go into this while doing, if you have any doubt, you can always visit this slide. Okay, so from here we can find out what is the equilibrium constant. Then equilibrium constant is e to the power from delta G naught by RT minus that you can expand into delta G naught H minus T delta S. So you have two components which can be two exponential minus delta H delta H by RT minus and e to the power delta S standard enthalpy entropy change by R as the definition of the K equilibrium constant. So you can write down each of the equilibrium constant. You can find out what is Kp. Now let us see what is the different type of Kp's you can.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
In the previous slide, there should be a negative sign in front of delta S and not in delta H. Yes, ma'am, here.
Yeah.
E to the power minus of del S naught by R, because
no,
negative
it is here you have a negative, na? E to the power minus delta G.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, yes, ma'am. Now it is visible. Okay.
This is not unitless. This will have a unit. And again, if you are given in terms of the concentration, suppose Pi equal to NiRT by V, you can say N by V is actually the concentration in terms of molarity. So molarity, if it is given, then also you should remember that the C naught is supposed to be there. It is C by, like you had for P by P naught. Here also we have C by C naught. So concentration in moles per liter is also there. So here also you have the equilibrium constant, which is we can say is in terms of Kc. The equilibrium compositions or concentrations of each can be found out, and then you can calculate the Kc value. Whenever we write down Kc, we say mean that it is actually dependent on the it is actually the concentration in terms of the molar concentrations, not in partial pressure terms. So what is the difference between Kp and Kc? I hope you know, remember. Kc is a function of temperature, so you have to remember that. And mole fraction, if you are taking the Kp in terms of the mole fraction of the reactant and product, then it is going to have some unit. So if you use this Kp unit, the equilibrium constant and the Gibbs-Helmholtz energy, this is the reaction equilibrium which you have defined. Standard reaction equilibrium equal to nothing equal to minus RT ln the equilibrium constant. Again, you have the delta G by T differentiated with respect to temperature at constant pressure is nothing but delta H by T square. This we have used number of times because it's very important for any numericals or for your everyday solutions. It's very important. If you have now you substitute G instead of the G delta G standard delta G reaction in place of delta G here, then what you get is the Van 't Hoff equation. Van 't Hoff equation gives you the relation between the temperature and the equilibrium constant, or we can say the equilibrium constant and the enthalpy. Okay, so if you are writing ln, the change of differentiation of the ln K with respect to temperature at pressure will be equal to the delta enthalpy of standard enthalpy of reaction by RT square. And this is a standard reaction which we usually ask you to do. You are given asked to plot ln K versus 1 by T, and from this relation, if you remember, your Gibbs-Helmholtz another form will be delta H by R here with a negative sign. So you can see when I am plotting the delta ln K by 1 by T, the slope which is going to come is going to be minus delta H by R. This is a numerical, and this is the experimentally we find out the equilibrium constant, we take a ln and plot it against 1 by T and find out the enthalpy change, standard enthalpy change for that reaction from the slope. So if you integrate the above equation, this is a version of the Van 't Hoff equation, which is you can find out the temperature dependence of the Kp or the K. So temperature dependence of the K can be obtained from this expression. I don't want to read it out. You can see it and can find out how can you at two different temperatures you can find out if you know the values of K at one temperature and the K2 as another temperature, how you can find out if you know the two temperatures, how you can find out the equilibrium constant at the temperature which is not known to you and one is given to you. So these are only expressions of further evaluation. This is the extension form of the Van 't Hoff equation, which says ln K, which is supposed to be getting from the reaction equilibrium, that will be equal to minus delta H by RT plus delta S by R, which is just now we have taken. You can raise to the power E to find out the expression which we had dealt with. Now what we have, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but could we get a 5-minute break?
I have 2 more slides. I'll break after that. I just have 2 more slides. These are things. I just want to just remind you what we are doing. The thermodynamic equilibrium constant does not depend on the pressure, but K mole fraction 1 does depend on pressure, and because here we can find out the relation, and you can see the equilibrium composition depends on pressure, even if this is not equal to 0. So when I'm talking about equilibrium pressure and composition and equilibrium constant, they are two different things. Equilibrium composition is obtained in the beginning of the slide. I have shown you how you can obtain the equilibrium composition. And thermodynamic equilibrium constant is what we are talking about, is only in terms of pressure. If the pressure is not in partial pressure terms, if it is in mole fraction terms, then you have to have this delta nu, which may not be equal to 0. But even if it is delta is not equal to 0, the equilibrium composition will always be dependent on pressure. So this is what I wanted to look into here. This is the one. I'm talking about a Q and a K. Q is I'm not defining Q as the equilibrium constant. I'm defining Q as the reaction quotient, because until that becomes equal to the composition of the equilibrium, then we cannot have the K become equal to Q. Q and K become equal 1 when the reactant and the product have reached their equilibrium concentration. So when the K is less than 1, so here what is the condition which we have, the law of mass action. I'm not going to go into this, but please look into this, because I can ask you objective questions from here. I'm going to ask you objective questions from Le-Chatelier's principle as well. And I'm not going to visit that, because I know that you know what is Le-Chatelier's principle. Okay.